My grandpa never talked about money. At 75, he lived quietly, surviving on a small pension, waking up early, sleeping early, and keeping his life painfully simple. So when he suddenly asked me one night, "What would you do for $5 million?" I laughed. "I'd play any stupid game," I said. He nodded slowly, as if storing the answer. 2 days later, he was gone. Not missing in the dramatic sense, no broken doors, no panic, just gone. His phone was still on the table, his shoes still by the door. The only new thing in the house was a cream-colored card lying neatly on his bed. On the front, a simple shape. On the back, a number. 456. That night, his bank account showed a strange pending transaction. Status: active participant. I didn't understand it yet. Neither did anyone else. 3 days later, a new video appeared online. It wasn't promoted, it wasn't recommended, it spread quietly, like a secret people weren't supposed to share. The title was simple: Squad Game Season Live. No faces, no explanation, just a massive indoor facility, bright lights, clean floors, a group of hundreds of people standing in identical tracksuits. Each one had a number printed clearly on their chest. I paused the video. I zoomed in. My hands started shaking. 456. My grandpa stood there, calm, hands behind his back, looking around like he was waiting for a bus. The rules appeared on the screen in a flat, emotionless voice. Participants will compete in a series of games. Failure to follow instructions results in elimination. Final remaining participant receives the full prize. The prize counter appeared above them. $50 million. The first game began without warning. Simple instructions, childlike rules. When the signal played, players moved. When it stopped, they froze. Anyone who failed was removed immediately. No blood, no drama, just silence and fewer people. You could feel it through the screen. This wasn't entertainment. This was pressure. Young players panicked. Some laughed nervously. Some cried. Some tried to cheat. My grandpa didn't move unless he was sure. When the round ended, nearly half the players were gone. Player 456 remained. Comment sections exploded. "Who brought an old man here? He won't survive the next round. This has to be staged." It wasn't. The second game was announced the next day. This one required precision, steady hands, patience. Anyone rushing would fail. I leaned closer to the screen. This was where I expected him to lose. Instead, I watched something unsettling. My grandpa smiled. Not proudly, not confidently, but knowingly, like someone who had been waiting for this kind of test his entire life. Around him, players sweated, cursed, begged for more time. My grandpa worked slowly, never once looked at the clock. When time ran out, the camera focused on the survivors. Player 456 advanced. The prize counter updated. The amount didn't change, but the meaning did. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the footage, the way he stood, the way he listened, the way fear seemed to slide past him instead of settling in. It made sense in a disturbing way. He had lived long enough to know something the others didn't. Pain passes, panic lies, but rules are honest. Before the third game, the host finally spoke directly to the players. "From this point forward," the voice said, "the games will no longer test speed." A pause. "They will test choice." I felt sick. I knew my grandpa. He wasn't strong, he wasn't fast, but he was very good at living with consequences. The camera zoomed on player 456 as the doors opened to the next game. He stepped forward without hesitation, and for the first time since this began, I realized something terrifying. He hadn't joined to win money. He joined because he understood the game better than anyone else. The second night changed everything.
After the lights went out, the remaining players were escorted into a large sleeping hall. Rows of metal beds, no walls between them, no privacy. Cameras mounted high above, watching every movement. My grandpa chose a bed near the corner, not hidden, just far enough to see everything. The rules were brief. Rest time begins now. Lights off. Any violent behavior will be punished. That was it. People whispered. Some cried quietly. Others stared at the ceiling, unable to sleep. The prize counter remained visible on a large digital screen at the front of the hall, glowing softly in the dark. $5 million. It felt heavier now. I watched the live stream chat explode with theories. Some viewers joked, others sensed something was wrong. My grandpa didn't sleep. He sat upright on his bed, hands folded, eyes moving slowly across the room. Not nervous, observant. That's when I noticed it. Guards didn't intervene when arguments started. Two players began shouting across the room. Another threw a punch. No alarms, no announcements. The cameras stayed on. People realized it at the same time. This part wasn't a break. It was the game. Chaos spread fast. Groups formed instinctively. Stronger players surrounded weaker ones. Fear turned into aggression. My grandpa didn't move. A young man approached him, breath shaking. "Sir, you should come with us. It's safer in numbers." My grandpa looked up at him and shook his head. "No," he said calmly. "It's safer with rules." The young man frowned. "What rules? There are no rules right now." My grandpa met his eyes. "Exactly." Before dawn, more than a dozen players were eliminated, not by guards, but by each other. When the lights came back on, the voice returned. "Rest period complete. Survivors will advance." No commentary, no judgment. Just numbers disappearing from the screen. Player 456 remained. The third game was announced immediately. Players were divided into squads of 5, no explanation why. My grandpa was assigned to Squad D. 4 younger players stood beside him, clearly unhappy. "This is dead weight," one of them muttered, not quietly enough. My grandpa said nothing. The doors opened into a massive indoor arena. At the center was a structure made of platforms, ropes, and narrow walkways suspended above the floor. The rules appeared. Each squad must cross the structure. Only 4 may finish. 1 will be eliminated. Silence followed. Understanding spread slowly. This wasn't about speed. It was about sacrifice. The squad panicked. Voices overlapped. Accusations flew immediately. "We should vote," someone said. "No, we should test it," another argued. "He's the oldest," someone whispered, glancing at my grandpa. My grandpa waited until they stopped talking. Then he spoke. "You're all thinking the wrong thought," he said. They turned to him, annoyed. "You think one of you must lose. That's not what the rule says." One of them snapped. "It literally says only 4 finish." "Yes, it doesn't say when." They stared at him. He pointed at the structure. "There is no time limit." The cameras zoomed in. Viewers noticed it too. The squad moved carefully. They tested each step. When a section looked unstable, they waited. Minutes passed, then more. Other squads rushed. Some failed quickly. Screams echoed through the arena. Squad D moved slowly, methodically. When they reached the final platform, they stopped. 4 spots, 1 space missing. My grandpa stepped back. "You go," he said. One player shook his head. "No, sir, you—" My grandpa raised a hand. "Listen, if all 4 of you finish, the game doesn't end. I'm still here. The rule isn't violated." Realization hit them all at once. The system hesitated. The voice paused longer than usual. Then, Squad D advanced. My grandpa stepped onto the platform last. 5 finished. The arena went silent. For the first time, the prize counter flickered. The system had not expected that. After the game, the players were returned to the sleeping hall. This time, no one challenged my grandpa. People watched him instead. That night, someone approached quietly and sat on the bed across from him. "Why are you really here?" the man asked. My grandpa answered honestly. "I've already lived my life. That makes me dangerous." The 4th game announcement came early the next morning.
Only 20 players remained. The prize still showed $5 million, but now everyone understood something. The money wasn't the real reward. Surviving was. As player 456 stood up and followed the others toward the next door, I felt something twist in my chest. This wasn't luck. This wasn't strength. This was experience, and the game was only getting started.
The fourth game was different. No bright lights, no clear instructions, just an empty hallway stretching for what seemed like miles, covered in fog. The cameras followed each squad, capturing their hesitant steps, their whispered fears, and the occasional panicked sprint of someone trying to get ahead. The voice returned, calm and emotionless. "Find the keys. Escape the hallway. Only one key per squad may be used. Failure results in elimination." At first, players panicked, screaming, arguing, and running in circles. Every corner held a trap, a sudden floorboard shift, a sound of something sliding behind them, lights flickering at random. My grandpa moved slowly, every step measured, every pause deliberate. He didn't rush for the keys. He didn't push the younger players out of the way. He watched. He listened. One of the younger players, frustrated, shouted, "Why aren't you grabbing the keys?" He smiled faintly, almost humorless, because grabbing the wrong one ends the game faster. It was like he knew the traps before they even activated. Halfway through, the squad was reduced to panic, sweat, and confusion. Keys vanished as quickly as they appeared. People made choices without thinking, running into dead ends or triggering alarms that eliminated them instantly. My grandpa didn't flinch when one of the false keys triggered a small electric shock through the floor. Others screamed and stumbled. He just stepped back, observing carefully. Then he spoke to his squad, quietly but firmly. "Listen to the sound. Watch the walls. Only one path is correct. Don't let fear decide for you." For some reason, they listened. Slowly, methodically, they moved together. When they reached the end, only 4 keys remained, and only one lock awaited them. The younger players panicked. They debated, argued, even tried to grab multiple keys at once. My grandpa remained calm. He looked at the lock, then at the keys in order of appearance. One by one, he picked the false ones, tossing them aside, until only the correct key remained in his hand. He inserted it carefully, turned it. The lock clicked. The hallway doors opened. The system paused. The prize counter flickered again. $5 million. But the audience watching online knew something different now. Player 456 had done something no one else could. He had finished the game without rushing, panicking, or breaking a single rule, and yet he had ensured the entire squad survived. The 5th game was announced immediately. This one was different. It was called Isolation. Each remaining player would be separated in different rooms. No teammates, no instructions, only one monitor showing the status of other participants. The goal: survive the night. The conditions were simple. The rooms had subtle psychological triggers, sounds of footsteps, whispers, faint moving shadows. The players' heart rates were monitored. If any exceeded a certain threshold, elimination was automatic. Most younger players struggled immediately. Every unexpected sound made them jump. Panic set in within minutes. My grandpa, of course, remained calm. He sat in the corner of the room, leaning on the wall, breathing slowly, eyes half closed, listening to the sounds of the room without reacting. Hours passed. The live chat exploded with speculation. Can he really do it? Old man is unstoppable. This is rigged. At 2:17 a.m., a strange message appeared on the monitor. Player 456, advance to final round. Only 2 players remained. Everyone watching online knew the final showdown was approaching. The arena's camera showed my grandpa walking into the final hall alone this time. The final game wasn't about fear. It was about choice. Every decision, every step, every pause would determine who got the $5 million prize.
And my grandpa, as always, moved with the patience and calm of someone who had already won. Not money, but something far more dangerous: control.
The final hall was vast, almost cathedral-like, with high ceilings and walls lined with mirrors. A single red line stretched across the floor. Beyond it, darkness swallowed everything. Cameras followed player 456 closely, capturing every small movement for the millions watching online. The rules flashed on the wall in stark white letters. Final challenge. Only one winner. Proceed at your own risk. Choice decides survival. The other finalist was a young man, barely 25, trembling and hyper-aware of every sound. He glanced at my grandpa nervously. "Old man, I'm not letting you take this," he muttered. My grandpa didn't reply. He just stepped forward, slow and deliberate, eyes scanning the mirrored walls, listening. The moment the hall lights dimmed, the challenge began. From the shadows came whispering voices, names, fears, memories. Each player's personal anxieties were whispered aloud through hidden speakers, panic triggers. Every step they took made the voices louder, the floor vibrate slightly, and faint moving shapes flicker in the mirrors. The young player ran immediately. Panic overtook him. The chat exploded with cheers and warnings, predicting the old man would fail. My grandpa didn't move fast. He didn't even flinch. He walked slowly, counting his steps under his breath. Whispering voices grew louder, almost begging him to break. A mirror reflected a faint shadow moving toward him, but he didn't turn. He just kept going. Minutes stretched into eternity. The young player screamed, broke into a sprint, and at 3:02 a.m., the system confirmed. Eliminated. Player 217. Only player 456 remained. The red line approached. Beyond it, a massive steel door glowed with a green light. Behind it, the prize awaited. Cameras captured every detail of the moment. Then the final choice appeared. A panel in front of him displayed two buttons. Button A, accept $5 million, leave immediately. Button B, share prize with all eliminated players, continue game for one extra night. The live stream paused for dramatic effect. Millions of viewers typed frantically in the chat, speculating what the old man would do. My grandpa studied the buttons quietly. He didn't hesitate. Not because he was greedy, not because he didn't care, because he had spent a lifetime understanding human nature, fear, greed, and patience. He pressed button A. The steel door opened. A bright light flooded the hall. Confetti shot into the air. Sirens blared. The prize counter blinked. $5 million. Winner, player 456. The camera zoomed in. My grandpa smiled faintly, wiped his hands on his pants, and looked directly at the nearest camera. "No one beats patience," he said quietly. Behind the scenes, the eliminated players were released. They stared at him with disbelief. No one could understand how a 75-year-old man had survived every challenge, every trap, every psychological test, while younger, stronger, faster participants fell. Back home, the money transferred immediately. $5 million. Legal, clean, no conditions. The live stream videos went viral, millions of views. Comments flooded in. "Old man is a legend. Player 456 is untouchable. Best gameplay ever." And my grandpa? He never uploaded anything himself. He never interacted with the online community. He didn't need to. He sat in his chair quietly, counted the money, and went to bed, just like any normal evening. But sometimes, when the TV is off and the house is silent, I hear him whisper, "Games test fear. Experience wins." And I realized that for him, it wasn't about money at all. It was about knowing the rules and never breaking them. After the game ended, my grandpa returned home. He didn't celebrate. He didn't throw a party. He didn't even check the live stream analytics. The $5 million sat in his bank account, untouched, waiting for bills, investments, and quiet living.
But more than the money, something else had changed. He had learned things about fear, patience, and human nature that no one else in the game had. The younger players who had laughed at him, mocked him, or underestimated him now avoided direct eye contact when he walked past. They remembered his calm, measured steps, his quiet observation, and the way he had finished every challenge without breaking a single rule. For my grandpa, the game didn't end with the prize. It lingered in the small moments, the sudden sounds in the house at night, the quiet hum of electronics, the way shadows stretched along the walls. He had trained himself to notice everything without reacting too quickly, to see every detail while others panicked. I watched him over the next few weeks. He returned to his routines, early mornings, walks in the park, reading newspapers, and his favorite old Western films. But at night, he sat quietly, staring at the ceiling, sometimes whispering under his breath. I couldn't understand most of it, but I realized he was replaying the game in his mind, every challenge, every choice, every step. One evening, I asked him, "Grandpa, are you proud?" He looked at me calmly, his eyes reflecting years of experience. "Pride isn't the point," he said. "The point is knowing that you can handle fear without letting it control you. That's the real victory." He didn't brag about winning $5 million. He didn't talk about the live streams or the millions of viewers. The money was secondary. What mattered was control, patience, and the ability to survive under extreme pressure. A month later, he quietly returned to the same website where the game had announced registration. He watched the promotional videos for the next season. He didn't sign up again, not because he couldn't, but because he already knew what the game demanded. Sometimes, late at night, I hear him humming quietly while counting the steps in his mind, practicing patience, replaying scenarios in his head. And I understand that the game didn't just test his ability to survive, it changed him. He became sharper, calmer, more observant, and almost nobody dared to challenge him, not because he was old, but because everyone who had watched the games realized he had mastered something they could never understand. In the end, the game wasn't about money. It was about living fully in each moment, making decisions under pressure, and seeing what fear could do, and more importantly, what it couldn't. Player 456 didn't just win $5 million. Player 456 survived life itself. And my grandpa? He went back to his quiet, simple routines, carrying a secret no one else would ever understand. But sometimes, when I walk past his chair late at night, I catch him staring at the TV, eyes focused, fingers tapping on his knee, preparing for a challenge no one else knows exists. And I know that in his mind, the game never truly ended.